Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled Motherhood by Theft. We investigate the disturbing rise of Spurgling, or Sperm Burgling. And guys, this whole article is talking about this whole thing about how, unfortunately, in this day and age, there are plenty of women out there that not only will get pregnant on purpose, but will take things to the next level. Well, they will actually, after a guy and a girl have sex, she will then get a hold of his condom and then get a hold of his leftovers from the condom and, as you can imagine, get herself pregnant. And this whole article goes into the whole thing here, so it's definitely a warning to you guys that do dating and pick up and hook up and all that. You gotta be extremely careful because this does happen, okay? I know multiple women now. I used to know 3, now I know 4, that just magically got pregnant in their mid-30s when each and every one of them wasn't happy the fact that they were that age and they weren't mothers yet or anything like that. And all the 3 beforehand are now either married or on their way to being married, and they got their kid and they're happy. Now the 4th one that I'm acquainted with, now she magically is pregnant at 35 years old, okay? They went through their whole lives since they were young and never managed to get pregnant, but now they are. So the point is, guys, that you've got to be careful. Those of you that haven't gotten vasectomies, for you guys, if those of you that want to have, that absolutely do not want to have kids, you know without a shadow of a doubt, you don't want kids, really seriously considering the vasectomy. You just don't want to get caught. But for those that you don't want to do that, always wear protection and always dispose the protection. And this article will make it clear why I'm saying this. So, I'm going to go into it now. Starts off, accidental pregnancies are nothing new, but the business of baby trapping has gone up a gear. Sophia Money Couch investigates the disturbing 21st century phenomenon of Spurgling. At the beginning, I felt as I had been graped. That may sound unreasonable, but having someone steal your DNA and then use it for something you never consented to feels like a violation on such a deep level. These are the words of a man we should call Jonathan, an insurance broker in his mid-30s who last year dated a 39-year-old accountant for 2 months before he called it off. She was nice enough, but Jonathan decided it wasn't the relationship for him, and he and his ex went their separate ways. Or so he thought. A few days after they broke up, she rang to tell him that she was 2 months pregnant. She had been taking the pill, she claimed, but somehow it hadn't worked, and now she was carrying his baby. Well, she was on the pill, but was he using a condom? Or was he just, oh, she's on the pill, so no big deal? Guys, I don't care what the situation is. If she says she's taking the pill, you always wear protection, and you dispose of your protection. Can't make that any more clear. Of course, women have been baby trapping men by getting pregnant without their consent, either for marriage, money, or simply to be a mother for decades. But in this internet era, the game has changed. Today, a woman desperate to get pregnant without her boyfriend, one-night stand, lover, finding out has an arsenal of high-tech gadgetry at her disposal. There are ovulation tests plus phone apps to monitor fertile days. There are the DIY insemination kits for around £20 on Amazon, which, shockingly as it sounds, can be used for the unsavory purpose of impregnating herself with the contents of used condom. No joke, guys. And to make sure it would be mums doing it properly, there are insemination tutorial videos on YouTube. There's even a new name for the practice, Spurgling, a slightly repulsive portmanteau of Sperm Burgling. Warning, the story will contain graphic content that for any men reading may put you off casual sex for life. Pay attention, guys. I've read online threads of would-be spurglers debating how big a hole has to be in the condom for sperm to get through it. I discovered the Celastic condoms are better for spurglering than normal ones because they are made from a material which isn't toxic to sperm. I've also learnt that plastic syringes or turkey basters used to inject sperm as high as possible inside a woman's vagina are preferable to metal ones because, according to one woman who tried to baby trap a wealthy man she was dating, the plastic ones are so much warmer. Baby trapping, in other words, has gone up a gear. This is nuts, guys, but it happens. Okay? And I guarantee you there are women that's watching this right now that have known some woman that they were acquainted with, a family member, a coworker, that in one form or another has done something like this to get pregnant. No joke. And again, to get the guy to marry her so she could be a mother, for money, you name it. You gotta be careful. It's insane, but this is what happens. You only have to look at news headlines to see that there has been a recent rash of cases around the world. Earlier this year, a man's post on the website Reddit went viral when he asked for legal advice after finding his girlfriend trying to impregnate herself with the contents of their condom. An eyebrow-raising post on the website Mumsnet detailed how one woman became pregnant after inseminating herself with sperm that her partner had deposited on her belly, in an attempt at the withdrawal method of contraception. In May, Singapore even passed a law against stealthing, where a person removes a condom during sex without the other's consent. Good Lord. But could a woman really get pregnant from a used condom? You could if you're very quick, says fertility nurse consultant Katie Davis, who warns that women thinking about getting pregnant without a man's consent need to consider the serious ethical and legal ramifications. They're not thinking about that, trust me. Issues range from the STD risk and lack of information about the father's genetic history to the worry that he won't want to be involved, or the opposite, that the father, a man she might barely know, has the right to sue for 50-50 custody of the child. I first came across the term Spurglering when I worked for Society magazine Tatler, and one of the editorial team announced that she knew a future peer who'd found himself in the same situation as Jonathan. If you're a single posh chap set to inherit millions and a big house, you're excellent baby trapping material. Yeah, guys, if you got money, and it's obvious you do, you are right up there, so you gotta watch out. We recall that tennis player Boris Becker alleged he may have been spurgled. It's hard to pronounce this stupid word. Spurgled by Angela Ermakova, the mother of his daughter, Anna, after their encounter at the Nubu restaurant in 1999. Although Becker denied he was the father at first, a paternity test later proved otherwise. 2 years ago, New York urologists report a spike in wealthy men coming to them for vasectomies. So worried were they about being pursued by gold diggers. No joke. I did an article early in the summer about guys, I think it was either the Hamptons or the Berkshires or wherever, all these young guys that have no interest in being fathers, being married, any of that shit, but have money, were getting vasectomies because all the gold diggers, all these baby trappers out there, and because these guys obviously like to hook up and party. So that's what a lot of guys do. And again, if you don't want to have kids one day, I definitely would consider thinking about that one. Baby trapping, sperm stealing, spurglering, whatever you call it, is a tricky issue to write about without sounding misogynistic, almost Victorian. Oh, these cunning women and their manipulative ways. But aren't men equally responsible for taking precautions? And no form of contraception is guaranteed, right? Well, the whole thing she's talking about manipulation, that's exactly what's going on. And scheming and all that. It's the truth. So if somebody wants to label it as something negative, that's on them. But the reality is guys are being tricked and being taken advantage of. So who's the bad guy in this situation? People that call these women out in this bad behavior, or the women that do these things? But we know in this day and age that it's much easier to make the guy the villain than to actually call a woman out on their bullshit. Absolutely. But it was a personal brush with the situation that gave me a more specific interest in it, and which partly inspired my new novel, What Happens Now. In the book, my heroine becomes pregnant after a first date. This is no spoiler. In the prologue, we find Lil doing a pregnancy test in her mother's bathroom. In real life, I dated a man who had a 1-year-old with his ex, and she supposedly lied about being on the pill. I saw firsthand how brutal this scenario can be. The resentment on both sides, the bitterness of her finances, the shouting and recriminations, all while a small child is caught in the middle. It's sad. It really is sad for that kid. Almost everyone explained the word spurglering to know someone's brother, cousin, uncle who had a surprise baby. Another grim euphemism. I can't count 5 male friends who have children who weren't planned with women they dated for a matter of weeks or months. None of them married. The mothers but all are involved with their children, although it took some time for them each to work out how to navigate the situation. More than once, I heard the pregnancy referred to as the bombshell by friends and family, says one of these men. Then my mother started using her own phrase to describe the situation, the elephant in the womb. Did this happen much among your generation? I asked my 64-year-old mother while researching the phenomenon. Of course, she replied, but in my day, the pair would have been expected to marry. So, obviously, as we all know, this has been going on for a very, very long time. These days, if two people suddenly find themselves expecting a baby together, they don't have to resort to a shotgun wedding, literally derived from the idea that the father of the pregnant woman would use a shotgun to force the man in question to marry his daughter. I never knew that. Learn something new every day. But in 2019, while I'm no apologist for women who become pregnant having deliberately misled a man, I can see why the conditions are right for it. It is not news that we are delaying major milestones such as marriage and childbirth. The average bride is now 35 years old. In the early 1970s, she was 25. So that's a big jump. But while more women over 40 do give birth, biology hasn't quite caught up with the societal change, and if you're a single woman in your 30s and your biological clock has kicked in, what do you do? Especially since men can have children well into old age, so can remain carefree for longer than us, and potentially reluctant to commit. Again, as I said before, the 4 women I know that just magically got pregnant in their 30s, they were all around 34, 35 years old. No joke. And every single one of them, except for one, because I don't know her as well, and the guy, they all absolutely wanted to be married, wanted to have kids. But what do you think they did in their 20s? Rode the carousel, focused on being a career woman, passing up countless good guys, really good, nice guys, and dated the bad boys and wanted the bad boys to settle down. And when they realized it just was not going to happen, then magically in their mid-30s, when they started dating a guy who was much more marriage material, they got pregnant. It's not an accident. Statistically, it's not an accident. Be careful, gentlemen. As a single, childless 34-year-old myself, I feel the pressure to have a baby mounting daily. I think about it sooner rather than later. My gynecologist advised about a routine checkup last summer. Meanwhile, headlines bombarded women in their 30s with alarming messages. The infertility time bomb ticking inside you. Technically, there are more baby-making options than ever. One can brave parenthood solo via sperm bank, with its price tag of around £2,000 for the sperm and insemination. I thought it was way more than that, but I could be wrong. Or like another girlfriend of mine who has a child with a gay man, co-parent with someone you're not romantically involved with. You could adopt. Or you could simply download a period tracking app such as Flow and aim to have sex with someone at the right time without any protection. Getting a sperm donor in the UK is difficult, says Kate Davies. It's an expensive process to do through clinics, and I've come across women who are trying to conceive naturally on their own, saying, actually, it would be easier to have a one-night stand. Long time ago, I had a girlfriend I dated for a while whose sister magically got pregnant, but this one she was in her late 20s, I believe. And she'd already been married once to a dipshit, and that didn't work out. And basically all her friends were having kids, so she wanted to have kids too. And literally, no joke, she waited for that perfect time, went out one weekend, Friday and Saturday night, and literally hooked up with 4 or 5 different dudes. I can't remember what it was. And big surprise, she got pregnant. And left the guy alone for a while until guess what? Later on in time, she started needing some money. And she actually was going to get married to another guy, and he wanted to adopt the child. And then she had to go obviously contact that guy, 1 for money, and 2 because of that whole adoption thing. It was a big mess. And that guy had no idea, but she did that on purpose. Waited to the right time, went out that weekend, hooked up with 4 or 5 different dudes. No joke. As you can imagine, her sister, who was my girlfriend at the time, was just shaking her head, but she knew her sister. It happens, guys. I read a long list of anonymous baby trapping confessions online. And here are some examples. I got pregnant on purpose in order to keep him from leaving, says one. We've been together for 5 years. I've been trying to get pregnant by
my married boyfriend for a year, says another. I think if I have a baby, he will leave his wife for me. He told me he'd never leave me if we found out I was pregnant, so I did it on purpose to make sure, admits yet another. They've spurgled, these men, yes, but if the surprised fathers fall in love with their babies once they're in their arms, is that such a disaster? Lady, don't justify these actions, okay? Not cool. It's what fertility therapist Helena Tubridy refers to as the semi-accidental pregnancy. A rarely voiced issue is a 30-something woman subtly trying to extract a ring from a long-term partner, she says. He's blissfully unaware of the biological clock, but she risks being dubbed needy and dumped for a younger model if she talks about this. So then comes these accidents, which speed things along. As for Jonathan and his ex, it took him most of the pregnancy to get his head around the situation. At the beginning, I feared for the baby's future, my family's feelings, my professional reputation, and my financial security. I dreaded the awkward confessions I would have to make to friends, colleagues, lovers, and curious strangers for years to come. He felt he had as though he'd been robbed of the chance to become the sort of father he'd envisioned being. A full-time dad living under the same roof as his child. But if you have sex, that's the risk you take. How you work out this kind of scenario afterwards is up to you. This is the guy from the beginning. Jonathan saw a therapist throughout the pregnancy to try to master his own feelings. I had to come to terms with the idea that I wasn't going to be there all the time, and my intense feelings of guilt. You have to forgive yourself for the situation. It's really important to get over the imperfection of it all. He also says he understands and respects the feelings of those spurgled fathers who chose not to be involved. If you resent the child, the last place you should be is around them. They're going to grow up and sense that. A year on, Jonathan can't imagine his life any differently. He sees his son every weekend, taking him to monkey music classes like many a devoted, if sleep-deprived dad, and has a good relationship with his ex, with whom he splits all financial costs. Instead of feeling trapped, he's grateful for his ex for shouldering the majority of the child care. I feel like I'm lucky. I unfairly benefited because she deals with so much of the day-to-day stuff. This woman is ending her article talking about this guy who basically is grateful this whole situation happened. And I get him handling, if indeed this is his child, I'm going to assume that this guy had to take a paternity test. If indeed it is his child, he's obviously helping out. Obviously, legally he probably has to, but still, they're making a silver lining out of a bad situation, and there's what we have here, him, like it's a good thing, and I can't imagine my life being any different. He was trapped. Not cool. But again, it sounds like this woman is trying to, make it all right. It's not all right. And it goes on. I feel like I'm lucky. I unfairly benefited because she deals with so much of the day-to-day stuff. She's a great mom, and there's so much to be thankful for. It's not a perfect story, but I only see in the positive light. Happily, in this case at least, both parents understand that however their son came into this world, he is now all that matters. Well, it does matter how that kid came in the world because obviously the guy's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend did it on purpose. But guys, this is why I do articles like this, to help you out. So for you guys that are single and are dating and hooking up and all that stuff like that, enjoy yourselves. But you got to be careful. If she says she's on the pill, doesn't matter. Wear a freaking condom. And by the way, condoms aren't 100% guaranteed. Let me make that abundantly clear here. But you wear your condom, and when you're done, you dispose of that condom. Okay? You take care of it. Don't leave it around the trash can. You get rid of it in your own way. Okay? Because these things happen. There's a whole article about this shit. Okay? And I'm sure every one of you guys watching this knows somebody that there was a accidental pregnancy. You don't need that shit. But again, like I said earlier in the article or the video, this is not what you want. In no way, shape, or form you ever want to be a father or anything like that, or get married or any of that stuff, which more and more guys are definitely going down that path. Seriously consider getting a vasectomy. Believe me, your future self will thank you. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.